Acton TV's website at actontv.org. So per our remote policy, all votes will be done by roll call. I'll call each member's name and they will state how they vote. We have only one item on our agenda, and that is the discussion of whether or not to schedule school during April 2020 vacation. And Peter did send us a memo ahead of time. I hope everyone had a chance to read it. And yes, at this point we can begin discussion. So the easiest thing for me is if you use the raise hand button in the chat, or not chat, but in the raise hand function by participants. It's much easier for me to see who wants to speak. So John, thank you for getting it started. You may go.
So, as usual, I want to go in a slightly different direction. You and I have had a little bit of conversation about the question of, is it better to animate discussions through motions or to have a discussion and then have a motion? My preference in this case would be that we make a motion and then have the discussion, speak to the motion, and then vote. But I'm happy to do whatever you want to do.
I think that makes sense. That's fine. So Peter's memo included a recommended action. If you'd like to read that, John, you can, and then we can have the discussion afterwards.
I don't have the memo handy, but I would like to make a motion that we will.
Would you like me to tell you what it says? Because I have.
That'd be great.
Okay. That the ABRSC amend the FY20 school calendar to cancel April vacation subject to collective bargaining in order to provide greater educational continuity during the school closure.
But she said, I move.
Is there a second? Paul, are you raising your hand to do that?
I'll second.
Sorry. Okay, Paul seconded it. Okay.
But I also have a question.
Now we can have questions and discussion.
Well, if I may, I see Beth is offline. Is she able to record, or does it matter?
She's taking minutes, but she, I think, just muted her video and audio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if I can just jump in and provide a little context, is that okay?
Sure.
So you had the memo, but I thought it would just be helpful to talk through kind of our process and make sure that everyone's on the same page about that. But this has been an ever-evolving process, and so after our last school committee meeting, we started to hear some parent feedback about wanting some more continuity during the April break. Now that we were ramping up educational services. And so after that meeting, we worked with Mike Balalescu, and he polled educators in the ABEA around their interest in continuing, because we know that based on our educator contract, April vacation is subject to collective bargaining for us. And so the results of his poll were that over 80% of our educators would prefer to keep the continuity of education going at this point. And so based on that, we then reached out to our families district-wide and asked the same question. It was a very basic question. Essentially, we had the same response rate where over 80% of respondents preferred to keep that going. I will say, we had been monitoring. It was an open poll, so that people did not need to log in to be able to complete it. We thought from a public perspective and families, it was a lot easier to answer a quick survey. We knew that could have, led to some skewed data. I had been monitoring the data all along the way, and what was very interesting is as we progressed from the time we released the poll right up through about 11:30 when I wrote the memo to you, we had very consistent response rates that all were about, 82-83% in favor of, continuing to teach and learn through the vacation, and about 17-18% preferring, to have the break. That pattern stayed consistent from the time we launched it right up until after I wrote the memo to you yesterday. And then we had a string of about 300 consecutive responses, all saying they would prefer to have the April break. I just want to acknowledge that those responses came in afterwards. It's very interesting that those came in because statistically, I think it might be almost near impossible to have had one set of responses, follow the trend line for 36 hours, and then about a half hour or 45-minute period where we had that number of responses in the complete opposite direction. Regardless, I'll give you those numbers. It's still, even with all those responses, ended up at 71% in favor and about 28% opposed. So it was still strongly in favor of doing that. We did shut the poll down after that because that led me to believe that there was something going on in the pattern of responses. I did receive about 4 parent emails after that. 3 of them were in favor of continuing to teach during the April break, and 1 had some reservations against. The one who had reservations against, it was, consistent with a lot of our staff thinking, was that if we had a crystal ball and we knew we were coming back, that time at the end of the year could provide valuable for connecting with kids, which I think is probably a fairly consistent sentiment, in terms of people who weren't in favor of it. We also heard, just the desire for a break. I think was important to people, but yet overwhelmingly, parent and educator feedback was, let's keep going at this point. We do have a collective bargaining agreement, and we have to pay our educators for the number of days that they work, and I think that's an important thing to make sure everyone understands. Our educators do work, Maria, I believe it's 183 days, if you can just confirm that. If we tried to add days to that, we would have to pay educators in addition. It's about $300,000 a day, give or take, a little bit, in order to try and add days. So if we tried to add 4 or 5 days to a school year, we would be talking on the order of, $1.2 to $1.5 million district-wide. And in the middle of this crisis and looking at future budget projections, that's not necessarily a realistic number. But I do know some people had questions about, could we add April vacation and also continue with the length of the school year? And the answer, unfortunately, from a budget perspective is no. We just don't have that ability. So with that said, that was the context. I provided you some language from the Commissioner of Education's update as well, so that you had a sense of what the state was looking at. And essentially that update is that, if we choose to go through April vacation, then we're required to schedule to our 181st day. So that would back up the end date of the school year from June 23rd until June 17th. So that goes from being a Tuesday to the Wednesday of the previous week. And so that's the nutshell. And then again, just for the record, and make sure anyone who's watching hears it, but we have Monday, the 20th, is Patriots Day, so that's a statewide holiday. We would be closed for business on that day, and then reopen Tuesday with our regular schedule that we previously published. So that's kind of the nutshell of where we're at right now.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. All right, John, I will let you go.
So, I think that obviously there's some arguments both ways, but where the preference of the teachers and, of the community is both to keep going, it seems to me that that's the right thing to do. We did have a small group discussion, earlier this morning, and one of the topics was, stress various individuals are feeling, around all of these changes and the work that relates to those. My only reservation about moving forward is that to the extent people, could benefit from a little chance to recharge, that, we will lose in this decision. So I think we should go ahead and cancel April vacation. But I think it's very important, to tell everybody in our community, that would be students, that would be teachers, that would be administrators, that would be parents, that, job one is to make sure that people feel well and that they're grounded, and then we'll work, after we've got everybody, in a good place, because if we just pile work on top of people, that will not be good for our community.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
This is a no-brainer for me. Families want it, teachers want it overwhelmingly. I think that you can't really underestimate how negatively impactful disruptions in learning are, and we've already had a lot of disruption in learning, so I think we're kind of finally on a good track here, and that's not just us, it's like throughout the Commonwealth. So I think it would really do more harm than good to have a vacation. I do think that there are many people in many districts pushing for a longer school year. So I was glad to hear, Peter, that you acknowledge that there's a price tag to that, that we just really can't afford to pay. It's too bad because that probably would help, but not if it's $300,000 a day. You don't anticipate, your memo is not fresh in my mind. We don't anticipate that the ABEA is going to vote this down, do we?
No, so, we had worked with ABEA leadership first to gauge interest because we knew if this was going to be a non-starter for our educators and was really prohibitive for them, keeping family schedules and everything else they needed to do, then, this wasn't worth exploring to then hit a dead end. But there was, a lot of consensus among that group as well. So that's why we chose to proceed and kind of bring this forward to you.
Thank you.
Amy?
Hi, okay. I agree. I think that we should definitely close for spring break. I have a question though, and I know I brought this up before regarding community ed. So my kids all 3 of them are taking driver's ed. It's all day for the 4 days. And I'm sure it's fine that they don't attend classes. They don't attend any virtual classes. And if there's any work, they can make it up. That's not a problem. I'm just wondering if we do this, will you still allow for community ed to offer driver's ed during that time? And if you have people then you have people who have signed up who would rather have their kids participating and would like to withdraw from that community ed course. Is that going to be a possibility?
Marie, you spoke to Erin about this. Do you want to jump in?
Sure. So that is one of our programs. Community Ed has students scheduled to take driver's education during the day during April vacation week. Once you guys make your decision, if we have school during April vacation, then Community Ed will work to reschedule the times that they currently have driver's ed scheduled. So they're still going to try to work it around the school schedule in this period of time during the closure, but it won't all be 6 hours a day for 1 week. So they haven't fully worked it out yet, but they're working to reschedule it in a way that works for kids that will not keep them out of their scheduled class time.
Angie?
This is a clarification question. So, Peter, can you clarify again? So, is it total 183 or 180 now with this proposal?
So we are required by the state, to schedule to our 181st day if we choose to teach through April vacation. So if we choose to take April break off, then we have to schedule to our 185th day, but that would back up by 4 days. So essentially it goes from June 23rd to June 17th. It's in the memo that we sent from the commissioner's office.
Okay.
Peter, can I add to that? Marie?
Sure.
Or Tessa? So students will have attended 180 days by the time we're done. It's just the 181st day on the calendar. When he referred to 183 days, staff teachers work 183 days. So they're teaching 180 days, and there are 3 professional days that have already taken place during the school year. So the contractual year is 183 days.
Okay.
Paul?
So just going back to the ABEA, is that, do we need to get a side letter with them? And is that something that Tessa can just simply sign off on?
We've already worked with them a little bit. Mike already started a draft of a side letter that, depending upon our vote, would be appropriate. John, are you raising your hand again, or did you just not put it down? You're muted. Okay. Oh, okay. So I don't see anyone else raising their hands. Is there feeling that we're just ready to vote on this? Maya's nodding her head, Ginny's nodding her head. Yes, yes, okay. All right, great. So there was already a motion on the table and a second, so I guess we can vote by roll call. So Nora,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Maya,
Yes.
myself, yes. I think that I called on everybody. So that passes unanimously, Beth. So yeah, Mike Belescu had already drafted a side letter that we can make sure that it's fine for the purposes of this, and then the educators can continue to move forward with teaching that week. So, Peter, is there anything else that we need to do?
No, I don't think so. I think, we're going to send information out. We'll connect with Mike after this meeting and, make sure we're all set. But, pending any obstacles that come up unexpectedly, I actually anticipate this will go out this afternoon in a memo to our families so that they can, have that answer and start planning. I do want to just say, again, I just have to thank not only our leadership team, but of all of our educators, because we're increasingly seeing the level of stress rise among that group. And, they really are working all hours. I think, it's hard when we're all, working in remote locations to understand just how much time and energy this takes on the part of our educators and leaders to keep things going. But tasks, a 20-minute video that you might see a teacher post might take 2 hours. By the time you produce it, run through it, get the materials together, record it, post it online, find the link, send it out, especially when you're trying to learn the technology along the way. So, we just want to thank our community for continued patience. We know we're going to have to ask for a lot of understanding as we go here. Things aren't going to be perfect every time, but hopefully people are seeing an increase in the services we're providing. I also just want to let everyone know I am going to be sending a message to all of our professionals in the district, and I'll put it in the family update, that I am asking our educators and leaders to take some time off over this weekend, to kind of pause on some of the emails and some of the things that go on. We're seeing a lot of people answering parents at 10 and 11 o'clock at night, trying to get back to people, but people need a little bit of a break here. And so on the, this long weekend, and, as we head into what would have been April break, that long weekend with Patriots Day, I am going to ask everyone to pause a little bit. So if people don't see the emails flying back and forth over the weekend, that's probably a good thing, and it's intentional. So we want to give everyone a little bit of a break here and make sure people feel comfortable taking that time for family.
Great, thank you, Peter. John?
I had 3 things. The first thing I wanted to do was to just get on the video with the congratulations to Deb Bookus for the successful defense of her thesis. As a reminder, there's lots of things going on in the world, beyond the things here. And I hope that, obviously we have some challenges about how we can celebrate those events. But, I'm very happy that Deb was able to do that, even with this very challenging circumstance. The second thing is, obviously, we're required now to take various actions that, don't follow the normal course of affairs. So I'm very comfortable with you acting on behalf of the school committee to sign off on the MOU. But it seems to me that if the committee is agreeable, we should actually have a brief discussion to say that we, the committee, in fact, have reviewed this way of operating and have said we agree this is the right way to process this particular event, rather than people just doing stuff and then, us having a lot of potential after discussion about was this the right way to do it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So from my view, I'm very happy with, this mode of operating. And so I do think we, the school committee, should empower Tessa to act on behalf of the committee to execute this MOU.
Marie, did you have something to say?
John, are you talking about the side letter related to April vacation or the MOU with the teachers about distance learning?
The MOU with respect to distance learning sale, the side letter if we're executing a side letter for the contract, do the side letters normally get signed off by the school committee?
No,
No,
by the chair,
so that is the normal process.
yes.
But obviously, for anything that's consequential, since normally we would debate the calendar, there's merit in at least bringing it back to the level of the committee rather than simply saying it, we have the ability to do this off to the side.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, we still needed the committee to vote the calendar, because that's your area. But then Tessa signing a side letter would be a natural outcome of that vote.
Very good.
So I will entertain a motion to adjourn if someone would like to do so.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Nora,
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Ginny,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Maya,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, we are adjourned.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank
Thank you.